Hi, I hope everyone had a great weekend and welcome to part 3 of our IEP training. Today we're really going to focus on how schools and teams write IEP goals and objectives so that our families can best understand how that process works and how to advocate for their child during this process. So the IEP is supposed to focus on offsetting or reducing problems that result from a student's disability and that adversely affect educational performance. So we're really looking at where the student's challenge is and how do we improve on those challenges. The IEP is supposed to be a management document that sets the general direction for the student, rather than a document intended to address the specific objectives. Even if it's not an IEP goal, it should be in the daily, weekly, or monthly lesson plans. Things that are being taught on a daily basis, on a weekly basis through the classroom curriculum doesn't need to be an IEP goal. The IEP should relate directly to the current levels of educational performance. So if your child is already matching from a field of 5, matching from a field of 5 should not be an IEP goal. It should relate directly to the special education instruction plan. It should build on how your student's being taught. It should serve as the basis for developing a detailed instruction plan. So when I was a teacher and I made my lesson plans, I always looked at every child's IEP in my classroom and incorporated those into my goals, into my lesson plans. This is one of my biggest pet peeves, and I've worked from everything from schools that started at 18 months old through 22, graduating into the real world. Congratulations, Larry. Again this year, you've achieved all your IEP goals. Thank you. I'm sorry, but you're not prepared for a real job. How can that be? I achieved all my IEP goals. So many times schools just don't even think about what the future is and just write a goal and write a goal and write a goal with no end outcome. Is the parent, when you are thinking about your child and where they want to be when they're 22, you should be taking that information in to advocate for all IEP goals. Think about what it's going to look like. Is our kids' age? Is our kids' age out of the school system? So we talked a little bit last time about PLP, present level of performance. It provides a basis for projecting goals and objectives to be developed, and it really sets that benchmark for where the child is, what's already been achieved, and what needs to be achieved in the future. So we might use norm reference scores as part of that PLP, criterion reference skill statements, those curriculum-based assessments, observational statements, anecdotal info, previous IEPs and previous present levels of performance, that parent report, parent input, child portfolios, and performance data. All of that should be incorporated into the IEP, into the PLP. It shouldn't just be, I think he's matching. According to the strategies teaching based on autism research assessment, Jimmy is matching from a field of 5. So this is a PLP that I saw in my previous environment. Handwriting is slow, labored, drawn, and nearly illegible due to improper size and spacing of letter or words. What we should be saying is the student writes legibly at a rate of 3 letters per minute. We want to focus on what the child is doing as opposed to what they're not doing. So realistic and functional plops, PLPs, gets arithmetic problems messed up and copies them incorrectly off the board and out of the book, lines up problems incorrectly, also lines up answers wrong in multiplication division. That's what I saw in a PLP once. It should say more than half of his arithmetic problems are wrong due to blank errors. So here's a great, example of PLP. Joe is matching approximately 4 words in associated picture and or symbol. He is completing up to an average of 17 out of 27 steps from his independent work system. Joe enjoys playing on the computer. However, he resists direct instruction from a teacher or aide for more academically based computer activities. If you read that, you know exactly where Joe is right now. Sue has made progress in the last few months in several self-help areas. She requires less assistance for pulling her pants down, remains on the toilet and urinating in the toilet, but she still requires more assistance with getting on the toilet and to pull up her pants. She completes some steps of a hand washing routine with gestural prompts, but still requires physical prompts with most of the steps. Sue eats in the cafeteria with her 5th grade peers. She requires that her food be mashed or pureed and requires a structured orthopedic seating to use utensils successfully. She currently takes the spoon to her mouth, but still requires assistance in completing this action without spilling. She drinks from a milk carton with a straw when the straw is held by a staff, and drinks from a cup containing a small amount of liquid requiring assistance in setting the cup down without spilling. So I always trained my teachers that the PLP should be detailed enough where if you up and move to Alaska tomorrow and your old school didn't talk to your new school, that new teacher could read the PLP and know exactly who your child is. This PLP, if I picked it up not knowing who Sue was, I would be able to work with Sue from day one. Make sure that your PLP is that detailed with your child because you never know what life's going to bring. And it's not just moving. It could simply be the teacher going on medical leave or the teacher leaving. You want the PLP to be detailed enough that anyone that picks it up and reads it knows exactly who your child is. So our annual goal should be based on students' past achievement, their present level of performance, the students' preferences, the practicality of the chosen goals. Sometimes what we think of as a goal isn't a priority. I was working privately with a child once, not in a school setting, and I wrote a goal that the child would learn to make his bed independently. And the mom said, John, that's totally unnecessary. I said, ma'am, why do you think that is? It's going to open up so many doors to him in life. She said, he's always going to live with us. We know that. We're very well off. We have a maid who makes all of our beds every day. I don't make my own bed. I don't care if my child needs to make his own bed. Let's move on to something more important for our family. I was like, you know what? You're right. The student's priority needs. What's going to open the most doors for the child? And the amount of time devoted to instruction related to the goal. Common errors in PLPs, and if you see this on your child's, please bring it up with your school staff. Omitting a critical need. For example, Pamela is highly allergic to scents and needs a scent-free environment. That should be in the PLP. That should be in the special considerations. It needs to be there. Using the category of eligibility is a PLP. Todd has a learning disability in reading and math. That's not the PLP. That's just stating that he has a disability. Todd is unable to identify letter sounds. Todd is unable to complete simple one-step addition problems. He is currently, identifying uppercase and lowercase letters. Stating only a vague plop rather than measurable terms. Jenna is deficient in keyboarding. We shouldn't be saying that. We should be saying Jenna is able to type 2 words per minute. What are those curricular goals versus enabling goals and objectives? Enable means to provide with the means or opportunity, to make possible, practical, or easy. Questions that lead to enabling: what is the student's learning style? Are they a visual learner, an auditory learner, a tactile learner? What's impeding the student from acquiring desired content? Is it the inability to transition from activity to activity? Is it the inability to process it auditorily? What is holding the child back? What are the student's strengths and what are their challenges? Are the student's needs best met through remediation or through compensation? What does the student need now in order to be successful in his current educational program? And what skills will the student need in the future to promote success once he leaves the present special instruction setting? So what skills they need now to be successful and what skills they need for the future to move towards a more mainstreamed environment. So what are those broad curricular areas of the IEP? Independent functioning, fulfilling the responsibility of membership within the classroom community, jobs, transitions, engaging in classroom learning experiences, those attending skills, establishing effective interpersonal relationships, those social skills, their communication skills, and then their curriculum functioning. What are their academic expectations? So those independent functioning skills, that's that self-help skills, toileting, unpacking their bags, eating skills, mobility, schedules or transition, and working independently. Those are those independent functioning skills. And there's a few types of teachers and a few types of parents, and they tie into the goals. So we have our guardian angel, who's always there, but kind of a step back. We have our super magnet, who's attached to your child all the time. We have that stuck like glue. And then we have that hovercraft who's always right over you. Those are those people that they're not always helpful. Although they think they're being helpful in the moment, sometimes it leads to that prompt dependency and it decreases independence. So what are those memberships of the classroom community? Following the routines, lining up when everyone's supposed to line up, following the classroom rules, participating in those classroom activities, and fulfilling those roles within the classroom. Engaging in classroom learning experiences, those are those goals that have to do with making choices, indicating their interests, interacting with materials, interacting with peers and adults, and participating in those group activities. Those interpersonal relationships, making friends, appropriate social interactions with others, social communicative skills, greeting their friends, conversation skills, and maintaining those social interactions, not just initiating them, but sustaining them. When we're looking at those communication skills, it can include nonverbal language, verbal language, augmentative communication systems such as iPads, Prolocos, touch chats, sign language, textbooks, and it could be written language. What are those academic expectations? Our cognitive skills, our academic skills, and the use of modifications and adaptations, creating assignment lists for homework each night, completing the homework from the list. There are no OT goals, speech goals, and teaching goals. There are just goals, and they should be worked on as appropriate. The child's not divided into the areas of therapies. If a speech pathologist in speech is teaching a child how to use 2 to 3 word sentences, but the teacher is not moving it to generalize to the classroom, it's a useless skill. We're working on everything at all times. Related service staff may be listed as support on a variety of goals and are expected to provide consultation to the teacher on how to facilitate those skills in the classroom. Again, we don't want them just being done in the therapeutic environment. Realistic, real goals, not real. Joe will have a better attitude towards school 80% of the time. Real, Joe will have no more than 5 unexcused absences this year. Realistic versus unrealistic, not a real goal. Max will be 75% successful in the mainstream. Real, Max will maintain a C+ average in his mainstream class. Beth will show an appropriate level of upper body strength. I can't take data on that. Beth will pass upper body strength items on the ABC fitness test. That I can take data on. What are those objectives? And we've moved away from objectives in a lot of cases in the public school system, but they're measurable intermediate steps between a student's present level of performance and the annual goal. So if we want Jimmy to attend for 20 minutes and he's currently attending for 2 minutes, the objectives might be we'll attend for 5, we'll attend for 10, we'll attend for 15, and then the final goal, attending for 20. But we're going to take those little steps to get to the overall goal. Short-term objectives must be stated in instructional terms and include a statement of the expected behavior. It must be observable and measurable, what the student does to demonstrate that the objectives have been achieved, and then under what condition they'll be done, the materials, the instructions, the time limits, and the prompts. He will sit for 20 minutes with no more than 2 verbal prompts to stay in his seat. A statement for the criteria for attainment, how well the student has to perform before all agree he's learned the skill. He has to sit for 20 minutes, 4 to 5 opportunities, 8 requests per day. We need to be very specific. I hope you enjoyed this session. Please join us tomorrow for part 4 of our IEP writing process. Have a great day, guys.